I think what frustrates me the most is the best description of media today is that old episode of The Simpsons with Bovine University. A Minecraft movie begins with Steve growing up, hating life, and after deciding to return to his hometown's mines, this is where he finds an orb that, when put inside of a crystal, opens a portal to the Minecraft world. After spending however much time in this world and befriending a wolf named Dennis, Steve enters into another dimension called the Nether, which is ruled by an evil piglin named Malgosha. So Steve is like, you know what, screw the Nether, and he tries to flee, but he gets caught, and then Dennis escapes to the real world, and he takes the crystal with him and hides it under Steve's bed, which closes the portal to the Minecraft world. Years later, Jason Momoa's Garrett, owner of a retro arcade and game store, buys Steve's storage unit with the orb in it, and from what I can best describe, this is from a not-so-secretly gay cowboy who wants to hang out with him in fluorescent spandex. I don't know any other way to interpret that. Around that time, Natalie, who's probably 16 at best, and her younger brother Danny, who looks an awful lot like Paul Rudd's young organ harvesting clone, are driving to that same town. Of course, Danny is just as confused as I am, but then Natalie is like, Danny, don't you know? We own a house in Idaho in this economy. How? Don't think, just consume. Anyway, Danny likes to craft, and on his way to school, stops by Garrett's store, talks with him for a little while, and then at school, Danny MacGyvers a jetpack for the science fair that happens to literally be that day, because we're operating on rings of power timescales. The jetpack works, but veers off course, collapsing the giant mascot of the chip factory that Natalie works at as the social media coordinator. Believe me, the writers don't even know what the hell was going on. Okay, let's just get through this. Instead of putting the burden on Natalie, Danny decides to call up Garrett and have him pick him up. Back at Garrett's arcade, Danny combines the orb and crystal, which guides the two to the old mines where the Minecraft portal has reactivated. Natalie, wondering where her brother is helped by Dawn, and the four of them reach the mines but are sucked into the portal. In the Minecraft world, the group checks things out and gets used to the very odd cube design of everything just as night falls and the monsters come out. Meanwhile, Malgosha, now aware of the portal's reopening, makes a deal with Steve to retrieve the orb at the cost of Dennis's life. Later, Steve saves the group and they travel to Midport Village. After being told more about the world, Garrett makes a deal with Steve to trade the crystal for diamonds when piglins attack the village and the group is separated. Steve, Garrett, and Danny flee by air, and this is probably the best example of the comedy in this movie.
What? There's still some negative space back there! We both know it! I'm trying to close the gaps! Okay, now get ready! I'm gonna squeeze for your safety! I understand!
Anyway, the girls are basically ejected from the story for now because the plot literally has no idea what to do with them while the men arrive at Steve's mine. Danny gets angry with Garrett because of this deal to make money, which makes no sense because Steve isn't telling anybody that he has no intention of working with Malgosha anyway. Then a giant piglin attacks. In the chaos, the crystal is destroyed, and they escape by blowing it up and collapsing the mine. It's at this point we are diverted to a woodland mansion where instead of being turned into chopped liver by the evokers, Steve and Garrett distract the illagers and are made to fight a chicken jockey, while Danny finds a new crystal for the orb. Danny's attacked by an enderman, but defeats it, and the trio escapes the mansion. Outside, they're attacked by more piglins and Malgosha, who then takes the orb. Steve and Danny escape while Garrett sacrifices himself as the piglins blow up the bridge like the Marcus brothers. Later, after reuniting with the girls and Dennis, the group prepares for the final battle against Malgosha's piglins. The group unleashes an army of iron golems and wolves against the piglins, and just as Danny's about to retrieve the orb and close the nether portal, the top of the portal is blown apart and Danny falls. But he's caught by Garrett, who's driving aghast. How and when did you learn to tame and drive this? Whatever, they close the portal, defeat Malgosha, and the group returns to the real world, where they work together as a misfit family, fixing up the arcade. And the post-credit scene introduces Alex. I apologize for blazing through this summary like I chugged a potion of swiftness, but it is accurate. The plot is a mess, like finding your public server was griefed in the middle of the night, so I'm gonna work my way through starting with the characters. First up is Danny, who I'm sure at one point was supposed to be the main character, but is nothing more than a simple connection to children. He's a nerdy kid who likes to build, but he doesn't really get the opportunity to do so. Okay, that's not really fair. He makes a tater tot gun and a tower when they get attacked by monsters, so that's really about it on his end. It's a shame, really, because in some iteration of this story, Danny was supposed to be the linchpin for the fun, the imagination, and even the theme, but all of that is applied like a lazy garnish to an underwhelming meal. Danny's sister Natalie is probably the best character, despite having very little to do. She is somehow Danny's legal guardian and tries to take care of him, even to the point that she now takes up a job, as I said, as a social media coordinator at the local chip plant. Like, she doesn't learn the world, she doesn't know anything about it, unlike Danny, who has a natural inclination to these things. I'm not saying she had to become some badass Amazonian warrior and be like, this sword's made out of diamonds, so come at me, bro. No, but she could at least do something more than stand there. After the Battle of the Village ends and the group is separated, she just freaks the hell out, talking about how, oh, I should have given Danny more freedom and I shouldn't have been such an overbearing parent. What are you talking about and where did this come from? I'll explain more when I get to it, but this is what I'm talking about. There are so many different directions these characters were pulled in. She has no reason to freak out like this because she was never overbearing in the first place. After the school contacts Natalie about Danny disappearing, she freaks the hell out, and because of Dawn, she goes looking for him, and they ultimately find Danny and get sucked into the Minecraft world. For Danny's first day at school, she baked him a tater tot pizza to break the ice when making new friends at school, and she's holding this brand new job that she just got. Natalie has been an absolute sweetheart the entire movie, so for her to be forced into this freakout makes no sense. Then there's Dawn, the most inoffensive of all of the characters. I say this because she has nothing to do. Like Natalie, she's just kind of cast aside and forgotten until the main plot points come up for her to be reintroduced. Dawn helps Natalie to track down Danny and gets sucked into the world, so she's just a victim of circumstance. And instead of fleeing, she stays with the kids to try to help keep them safe. So she's easily one of the best characters in the movie, but if it wasn't for her being reintroduced multiple times, you would basically have forgotten that she was even there in the first place. This now brings me to the two characters you will either love or hate. Garrett is this washed-up, down-on-his-luck arcade player from the 80s who's facing eviction. He acts like a badass, presents himself like a badass, but he won't stop screaming like the black kid from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Actually, it just dawned on me, he feels more like a parody of Razor Fist, Firebird and all. There's nothing wrong with dumb characters. Dumb characters are fun, sometimes can have a great deal of heart behind them, but Garrett lacks all of this. Even to the point that when it comes to combat, he's just useless. I do believe he genuinely took this role to try and fulfill that old Arnold Schwarzenegger trope of going super serious and then doing kids movies. He does feel like he's actually trying to entertain children, but the problem is, he has no idea how to do that. And if not him, then at least the script, because I don't understand why your defining character trait is not only cowardice, but screaming goat. Yeah, he doesn't grow or improve. This is his one shtick from start to finish. And it wouldn't necessarily be as bad if he wasn't thrust onto the audience. So if you thought you were going to see a movie about kids enjoying a game that your own kids might enjoy, well, get ready to see Jason Momoa running around in bell-bottoms. And this brings me to Steve. I get it, Jason Momoa doesn't have a great deal of acting range, but at least this character is this character for this movie, whereas Jack Black has played Jack Black his entire career. I don't understand why Jack Black is here, but it must have taken 20% of everyone else's checks to get him here. His charisma is undeniable. There's a clear difference between guiding mentor and spotlight hog. He did most of the crafting in the world. He has lived in this world for some years. He explored all of this. He knows all of this, so he also gets to be the exposition dump for the adults. So by bearing this responsibility, he's thrust to the front, which means the kids had to be shoved off stage. Speaking of off stage, pretty much everything that actually matters to, Minecraft happened off screen. Instead of this being a world that we explore as an audience, it's already lived in because somebody has already built all of these things. Giant villager heads, a massive chicken obelisk, even a chicken farm. has already been established. And again, almost none of this is built on screen. It was already built, and it was explained at a later time. In particular, the chicken farm, which should be the most interesting thing. This is why the movie clashes as hard as it does with what should be the theme of the movie. It would have been better if Steve built many different things, but didn't go with the advanced builds that players know today. If Danny had built the chicken farm and figured out how to feed people in the world, and Steve been like, wow, dude, you did really good, so why don't you do more of that? That would have played directly into what should have been the theme and message of the movie, but it's almost entirely absent. And that's probably the weakest element of the movie. Minecraft is an open sandbox video game where the only limitation is your imagination. If you can think it, you can build it. But it's only thrown in at the very end because the writers didn't think about how to interweave it with the main narrative. I'm not saying every kids movie needs to have a deep philosophical message. Minecraft doesn't have to explore the purpose of life like Mewtwo learned 20 plus years ago, but it would be nice to see such a hopeful and encouraging message in a movie where the rest of the world has, by contrast, been extraordinarily dark and gritty for so long. And even that was underwhelming because the one theme this movie did try to shove onto people was that being an adult sucks. Everyone, Garrett, Steve, Dawn, the principal, the teacher, everybody complains about being hampered down with bills, debts, and divorce. It's all so badly executed, and I can already hear all of the comments coming in from the future about people clickety-clacking on their keyboards saying, how dare you criticize a kids movie when it's just not made for you? No, I refuse to accept the mentality of resentful adults who put on movies or cartoons to distract their children because they don't want to parent. Kids' entertainment is not something that should be put on just to shut your kid up for an hour and a half or so because you want a break. On that point, this entire movie reminds me of The Neverending Story when Atreyu speaks with Gamork. That's a Minecraft movie. The Nothing. A hollow, soulless thing that exists for its own satisfaction, and the reason it will make bank is because they covered it up in Minecraft decorations. And I know that children will agree with me on this because out of the 20 or 30 people that were in the theater, most of which were children, they did not laugh. There were a couple smirks, there were a couple chuckles, and there was one little laugh at the end with the Steve and Malgosia bit about getting stabbed, but that's about as far as it goes. The rest of the time, the kids sat there bored out of their minds, probably just catching all of the references, but that's about as far as it goes. This movie lacks the entertainment of the Super Mario film, the messages of the Sonic films, and worse yet, the passion and imagination of the Minecraft fandom. You could make a serious argument that the Fallen Kingdom series that Captain Sparkles helmed is by far the superior Minecraft movie. And because of that, here I am all of these years later asking the same question I did way back in the Mortal Kombat review. How is it a major studio working with the developers, and in this case multiple writers, again screwed it up so badly? Now excuse me while I mine up all of those old fan songs again and binge all of them. And I'll see you in the next video.